Hi, this is Marcel of Marcel on Tech, and today we're talking about some of the best watches in the world. This is the Apple Watch Ultra 2, and this is the Huawei Watch GT4. Now, this is not the GT5, but the reason I didn't get the GT5, although I've tested it already, is because the difference between the 4 and the 5, I feel, is just not significant enough. So I actually feel like they are comparable. Now, I have recently said that in my last video about smartwatches, that this watch is probably one of the best watches in the world. And why? Because of battery life. But having tested out the Apple Watch, much to my reluctance, I think I might be changing my mind. Let's get into it. Okay, side by side, looking at these two gorgeous watches. I have to say, let's talk about visuals first of all. Now, I'm not going to talk about lots and lots of specs because it's all been done. These have been out for quite some time. This is obviously quite a bit older than the Apple Watch Ultra 2, but nonetheless, they are comparable because this is the best of what Huawei have for the Android system, and this is the best of what Apple have for, of course, the iOS system. Now, in terms of the looks, let's talk about what they look like. Now, this looks can be very, very subjective. Now, I'd love to know in the comments what your thoughts are about which design you prefer. I would say this is a much more utility-based design. It's got these quick access sport buttons on the side. It's got quick buttons on the right side as well as the crown with a push button function as well. So there's a lot to actually know and do with the Apple Watch Ultra. There's a lot going on. It does look very, very visual. But the actual just fundamental design, I feel, is this is much more sporty. This is much more in way of the classic kind of watch look. And I really, really love this look. I think this is a very classy looking watch. This is probably one of the best looking smartwatches I think available on the market right now. But in terms of rugged, cool design and tough design, this is absolutely brilliant. Moving on to the screens. Now, you judge for yourself. If you're looking at that screen, this can go up to 3,000 nits, which is fantastic because I live in a very bright place in southern Spain, whereas this GT Watch 4 goes up to 2,500 nits, which is still very, very good. And I can perfectly see it in the sunlight. So it is comparable by all means. And it is very, very clear, and it has these very, very nice off modes like this, or always on displays. And this what the Apple Watch does also. But I find that they are both very, very functional in this bright area. So I would say that these two are actually comparable and equal when it comes to the screen and panel themselves. Even though they are quite different in their design, they are very bright, very clear, and really, really easy to see. Following that, let's talk about watch faces. So changing watch faces on the Huawei is super duper easy. Press and hold, and you scroll across. There are hundreds of designs. It's a separate video altogether. If you'd like to see more videos about my favorite watch faces, then just let me know. But it is as easy as that when you select a different watch face. When you go across, now you'll notice that the time on here is not correct. I don't actually have this paired to my phone, so don't worry about that. But as you can see, they really do have many different styles on the Huawei that are just fantastic. And a lot of these, the majority of these are free, but there are some even more detailed paid for ones as well. On the Apple Watch, of course, you have got some very, very nice standard Apple ones, which can be changed, again, pressing and holding on the screen, and just as easily popping up and putting in a new watch face just like that. And the video graphics on some of these are absolutely stunning. I have to say, when it comes to moving images on the Apple Watch, it's absolutely brilliant because they really are fantastic, incredibly vivid, very, very crisp. You've got these astronomy looking ones that are just gorgeous, and they really are very, very imaginative. Now, you can get third-party ones. I haven't used that many, but they are actually quite good. We've got this liquid metal style that is, as I say, a motion activated watch face, and it is just gorgeous. Really, really impressive. So I would say they are on par with relation to the variety, but in terms of motion watch faces, if you like that sort of thing, They look absolutely brilliant on the Apple Watch Ultra. I have to give it credit for that. So this one, the Apple Watch Ultra just gets a pip on the Huawei because there are many fewer motion watch faces, but the watch faces are absolutely brilliant. So you definitely won't find any limitations from the GT4 or 5. But if you like the moving animations like you get on the Apple Watch, then it's very hard to beat that indeed. And it is absolutely brilliant. Now, going into more detail, my favorite watch face on the Apple Watch Ultra is this watch face. This is the Ultra watch face because the complications are brilliant. In actual fact, with these complications, you actually don't even really need to go into the watch. I've got Spotify, I've got direct access to making a phone call, in this case to my wife. I've got the temperature and weather. I have humidity readings. As you can see, they're very high. Today's not too bad, but it's usually up in the 80s now. We've got our exercise rings, of course. And of course, we've got other measurements as well, such as pollen count, humidity, etc. It is absolutely brilliant to use as a watch face. It is really, really good. Plenty of complications here, but I do find that the functionality of the Huawei Watch GT4 or 5 is less than it is on the Apple Watch. But that's not always a bad thing because a watch is designed to tell you the time and maybe in this case provide you with some more information, particularly health tracking, which we'll get to. But in terms of additional information, the watch can do that, but I find that it's much less user-friendly than it is on the Apple Watch. It is much more complicated, quite literally. There are many more things happening on the panel, but that's not always necessarily what you want. So you can access certain things very quickly. You can change certain background settings in this watch face, for example. You can tap certain parts to see aspects like sunrise, sunfall, etc. But it is actually less, should we say, functional. Although it's perfectly functional, there are more activity things you can do on the Apple Watch and you can watch in terms of the complications. Now, going into the settings, if we want to go across, we will swipe through all of the different functionalities. It will take a whole nother video to go through all of these for each watch, but basically swiping through is how we get there. If we want to see a list of quick workouts, I've programmed it so on my GT4 watch, I've got the button here. It goes quickly into a workout. Now, speaking specifically of workouts, this is a minor gripe that I have that's really annoying about the Apple Watch. I am a paddle tennis player, and the Apple Watch does not have a workout for paddle. It has a workout for tennis, but not for paddle, which I do not understand. It's a very, very popular sport. It's more popular than most other sports that are in here, like I don't know, there's a pickleball one as well, which is incredibly popular in the States, but pickleball is in the watch, but not paddle, which drives me crazy. But this watch, the Huawei watch, has paddle as a workout. So that is brilliant, and it should be on this watch. That's super duper annoying. So Apple, if you're watching, please update it and include a paddle workout on the Apple system because it should absolutely be there because it's a much better sport than a lot of the ones listed here. Just my moan. That's anyway. Just my moan anyway. But otherwise, that exists. To scroll through these, we can use the wheel. And then, of course, we just tap the workout that we want to get to. If we want to come back to the menu, we go here. Now, you'll see that the layout for the apps is actually quite similar to the layout of the Apple Watch as well. So there is definitely a little bit of mimicry happening here. But they're both very easy to use, very clear. I like the app designs. They're both really, really nice. There's lots of movement. It's very fluid, very easy to use. And they both work very rapidly as well. Now, going into workouts, they both do excellent workout tracking. I was using the Huawei watch for the last year, and I've been using the Apple Watch for the last 2 weeks. I've played multiple matches of paddle. I've been doing exercise regularly, and this tracks extremely well along with sleep as well. So I've used the Apple Watch for sleep tracking, and I've used the Huawei watch. Now, I do find that the Apple Watch is more conservative by about 15%. It tends to have a slightly lower heart rate reading than the Huawei one does. And the sleep tracking on the Apple Watch is more generous. So the Apple Watch tells me that I'm sleeping for longer than the Huawei watch, which is a bit weird. And actually, I find that the Apple Watch is more accurate with my sleep tracking than the Huawei. With the exercise, it's pretty much on par. The differences between heart rate is very, very minimal in relation to these watches. But with the sleep tracking, I find that the Huawei seems to struggle to find out exactly when I've fallen asleep. But whilst I'm asleep, the depth of sleep and the REM sleep patterns seem to be very, very similar on both. So that makes them quite reliable, which is really, really good. Now, in terms of comfort, I got really used to the Huawei GT4. That's the reason I kept it. That's the reason I used it every single day prior to getting the Apple Watch Ultra 2. Now, this watch is, because it's a utility functional sports watch, it is comfortable. As you can see, it's a huge panel on my very slim wrists. It's almost end to end on my wrists. So that whole panel is taking up all that space on my wrist, which is absolutely fantastic. I love it. But at the same time, this classic circular design is really, really nice and very, very comfortable. This is the watch band that came with the watch. I have not changed it. I have not needed to. It's a very, very clever combination of fabric and silicone, which is perfect for sport, but also gives it that classy look as well. The Apple Watch Ultra came with a band, which I actually didn't really like very much, which is the material one. But I've been testing out various different watch bands. This is an excellent one for security and sports. It is one of my favorite ones, but I have other watch bands that I've been putting on and testing out, and they are also very, very comfortable. And the beauty of this is the ease at which you can change these out, which of course is very, very common feature of the Apple Watches. It's very, very easy to swap out these watch bands. Now, here is where they differ significantly. This is where I wanted to dislike the Apple Watch. The Apple Watch famously has got a 1-day charge. That is, the normal Apple Watches have got a 1-day charge, but they have finally gotten better at extending that. The Huawei, this beauty can last 7 to 10 days on a single charge. 7 to 10 days, that is unreal. That's like a regular watch effectively. You plug it into the puck charger, it takes an hour and you're good to go for a whole week to 10 days. That is unbelievable. And that's with all sensors switched on as well. You can make it go for longer if you switch off the sensors. The Apple Watch, I was very annoyed. I wanted to dislike it because I felt that it was only going to last about a day to 2 days. But this watch can actually last up to 4 or even 5 days if you put it into battery saver mode, which I think is finally a really strong feature and a really good thing about it as well. So I'm currently in low battery at the moment, and what I can do is I can activate low power mode. If I turn that on, what will happen is it will discontinue or switch off some of the sensors that it has on all the time, like heart rate reading, and it will reduce the number of heart rate readings that it does on a regular basis. So now I can reserve some of my battery, and this will probably last me all day long. If I don't have that on, it will burn out. It'll probably die by later on this afternoon. But with this low battery mode on, low power mode on, it will make a big difference. And that is what I love about this Apple Watch Ultra 2. It can be closer to this Huawei. It still can't catch the Huawei. This still wins in battery life, hands down. But in terms of functionality on this Apple Watch, you can do everything on this Apple Watch that you can pretty much do on a smartphone. So for example, I can't play music through this. I can play music through this. I can take phone calls through your Huawei, which is good actually. You can obviously take and make phone calls through the Ultra. So if I want to, I can actually connect this to a cellular network. This device only has Bluetooth connection only. The Ultra can make phone calls. I can connect to Spotify and play directly from there, which is brilliant. And I can obviously make card payments as well. So I can do NFC card payments through Apple Pay, but because Huawei is on a blocked system, they do not take card payments, and therefore I cannot make card payments. Now, that's not the end of the world, but that is the major disparity between these two mega devices. And I have to say, the Apple Watch Ultra 2 has really, really impressed me. Now, I'd love to know what your thoughts are on these two watches. Do you think they're comparable? Would you prefer one over the other? And I have to say, the final thing that is the problem with, of course, the Apple Watch Ultra is that it only works on an iPhone. I can connect this device to my iPhone and it will work absolutely perfectly using the app that you can install from Huawei Health. It will work perfectly on my Apple device. This device, the Apple Watch, will only work with an Apple phone. If they released an APK or some app that would allow it to work with Android, this watch would be the best watch in the world and it would be absolutely brilliant. But they're not going to do that because they like to keep their system closed. Whereas the Huawei watch can work on any Android and it can work on any Apple Watch as well. Now, let's talk about price. You can pick up this device for 300 euros, which is absolutely brilliant. I think that's excellent value for money for this gorgeous watch that you can see right here. This watch set me back 850 euros, which I think is a huge amount of money, still too much money, but it is an absolutely brilliant watch that is getting better and better. And I look forward to getting iOS 26 with the update here that will allow for even more adaptations. If you agree or disagree with anything I've said, I'd love to know. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in my next one. Bye-bye for now.